Thank you so much. And as been said, I will be giving updates on consolidated material procurement. My name is Mārtiņš Blaus. I'm procurement manager. And first I will begin most probably with a status update. And from entire package, we have launched all 7 procurement exercises, 7 materials. Namely, we have launched procurements for cable channels, sleepers with the fastening system, supply of the rails, turnouts, including rail expansion joints, supply of the ballast, supply of fence, and supply of noise barriers. So as you see, it's quite a list, and the volumes as well on this slide you see are quite extensive and not usual. I must say, I perceive this as not usual for local market. And that's why actually I want to use momentum and say thank you to all of the candidates, tenders, bidders, all participants who has taken a part in our procurement exercises, who has submitted the applications and who are currently competing between each other to enter into framework agreements for these supplies. As you see on this slide, these procurement procedures, each of them is in a different stage and different stage of the events related to finalization and entering framework agreements. Most of them we have completed the qualification stages. Therefore, we have listed compliant bidders, and they have been invited to the second stage of the procurement. So basically, the documentation with a very specific locations and conditions, including framework agreement. And supply strategy is given so that they are able to calculate, risk assess, analyze supply solutions, and provide us economically the most advantageous proposal and bid. So with the cable channels, we have progressed the farthest, so we are in negotiation process currently. Rest of the superstructure materials are currently at the initial bidding phase. Bids will be landing soon, and then we will enter into negotiations. And in future slides, I will tell you what's and where this is very important to us, important to the market, important to the project, and important for the entire global project construction works. So a little bit about the framework agreement itself and principle of the sourcing of the materials and establishing the supply chain. So there are obvious several benefits of this process. For the supplier, it is becoming a confirmed supplier of the Rail Baltica project. So basically it's qualified, products are qualified, company itself is qualified, and it becomes as a single supplier, because the frameworks works in the way that we contract under the framework agreement one manufacturer supplier for the specific material good. Then it enables as well plan the resources, plan capacities, and actually using this planning approach leading to the successful operations, and eventually it will be mirrored in the costs so that we see benefit of. And again, this is by getting as a confirmed supplier under the framework agreement. You have to understand this is a very long-term contract. So basically, it will cover entire construction period of the Rail Baltica railway. So this is a platform and a chance to supply all of the respective goods under the framework agreement. Of course, for the client, we see a lot of the benefits, and not limited to the cost, not limited to the price, optimum price, but we see there more benefits, such as predictable strategy for the pricing mechanisms and escalations, de-escalations throughout the entire construction period, because it's a lengthy process, and as we we have experienced in the past, many different situations geopolitically might affect the availability of the product in the markets. Same time, this reliability and supply chain that we have, cooperation and the partner contracted allows us to face these challenges and risks of the markets together and share these risks and challenges what we might face. Outcome of this cooperation process under the framework agreement, of course, we see one is very important that the entire Rail Baltica railway line has to meet the TSI standards and the same quality and durability, reliability standards and requirements. So this is the way and approach and the key how we make sure that actually sourcing consolidatedly materials for entire project, we meet these technical and quality requirements. And that leads to actually the process that me, myself, and very talented team of the experts in Procurement Commission is actually working on currently with the consolidation of the supply. So we have these three phases, as we call them. Currently, we are in the procurement phase where procurements are running, and very important moment of the procurement that we now are exercising is the negotiations. Negotiations are meant that we can align with the manufacturers and producers and suppliers. We can align on a very critical conditions of the framework agreement. So basically establish the partnership and cooperation where we can share the risks, we can foresee the situations which we'll have to tackle and mitigate, and we can understand who's and where is liable for any challenge or circumstance which might occur at the time. After successful procurement phase, we enter into framework agreements, what I explained in previous slide, where this flexibility is very important since we have very long-term framework agreements established. So indexation of the prices is one of the main topics that's been as well addressed by the market, and we realize in our organization that this is something that we need to and we want to resolve so that contracts are not in favor or not subject to huge risks of termination, or we don't want to put the manufacturer in a situation that they have put a lot of on the risk margins, then the price becomes uncompetitive, and same time we are losing on the some risks which might not occur eventually. So this is our approach. We're selecting, and these companies who are already participating in these procurements are seeing the approach that we are providing. After successful signing of the framework agreements and finalizing the negotiations, we enter into the phase where we have contracted manufacturer. I say manufacturer / supplier. There's different cases we have in ongoing tenders, and this is where actually we work. We begin immediately, and we don't begin with the supplies already. We begin with the cooperation, establishing relationship, planning. We're learning from each other what can happen and how can actually more successfully and efficiently organize logistics. And providing the information and visiting sites and testing the supply chain eventually and using the tools for supply and logistics. As you see, the delivery area for the materials is quite extensive. These are 800 kilometers across 3 Baltic countries. Therefore, we have established the main locations for the delivery of the respective goods. These are 2 infrastructure maintenance facility areas which we will transfer in the construction process as a material basis in each of the Baltic countries. But not limited to this, because since we don't have yet mainline construction companies contracted, and their approaches between the countries might a little differ. Therefore, we have as well foreseen the flexibility under our framework agreements, where can we actually as well choose the alternative locations for the supply. So this is what will take place. These challenges and after designing the framework agreement, where we'll have to establish these supply chains actually according to situation, according to phasing of the construction works and the stages it will take place. And this is eventually as well benefit of the framework agreement that we see. And if we look more closely to the infrastructure maintenance facility area, which is meant to be as a construction base during the construction works, we look at these areas as a possibility to, before even the construction works takes place, to use this area as a stockpile. To ensure the material availability for the construction company, so that we don't delay the construction works, and the processes can be carried out as soon as we have contractors onboarded. And therefore, to make sure that we have availability of the materials, there will be several tools used for the planning and ordering, and this is as well the process before actual supplies are happening, where we have this cooperation with the manufacturers and suppliers. So time before, right after frameworks signatures, we will use to learn and test the systems for ordering. And one of the key items of the ordering system is a rolling forecast. And this is as well a tool to provide the ability to the manufacturers to plan their capacities, raw materials, and examine logistic chains, suppliers, and all realm what is required to deliver materials at the site, and the means of transportation, of course, which would be more efficient and same time will provide the best result. And the key for that is rolling forecast. And rolling forecast is the thing actually where after the framework agreement is signed, all the setup is made. We provide the figures and quantities and volumes which are required as per work execution plans, which we will receive from the construction company when they will be contracted, and they will establish the schedules of the construction work. So basically, this all information works in collaboration together, where we can provide, and there are several conditions related to forecasting system. So when we issue 12 months rolling forecast, we give not only limited to these 12 months, we as well provide information on the next year. That would enable manufacturers to ensure the capacities and raw materials for production. And that would as well allow us to understand and learn that where can be possible supply chain bottlenecks, and we can use these tools for different risk mitigations, not limited to ones what I have named at the moment. And this happens throughout all entire construction process, and within each forecasting process into the 12 years when it's given, we organize supplies based on purchase orders. So after a rolling forecast is provided, year is kicked off, and we actually, for the period of the next months or according to work execution plans, where the materials are necessary and how much, we place POs. Same time ensuring that we have a stockpile availability to manage the risks of insufficiency of the materials in case, and different such as conditions. So more or less, this is about the approach and principles of the framework agreements for the supply of the consolidated materials. And then, of course, as you saw in previous slides, There are several steps and stages how materials get into site and are installed by the construction contractor. Therefore, since all of the material categories currently which were established, such as under the consolidated procurements, has been launched, it doesn't mean that there are no possibilities to still take a part in this supply chain process. As you saw, the volumes are huge. Area of the delivery and supply is quite extensive and covering 800 kilometers across 3 Baltic states. So I've listed a couple of, and not limited to, not exhaustive list, items where the local companies, local suppliers can chip in. Information related to the companies which has applied for our supply materials is available in Rail Baltica webpage, and you will find these lists. In case you in case you have issues, you can always drop an email to the procurement at railbaltica.org, and the information will be provided. Yeah, this is more or less about the framework agreements, and thank you for listening, and hope to see you in our procurements.
Thank you, Mārtiņ. Truly insightful presentation. Would like you to ask to sit down next to Aiga, as we have received some questions, so I will also join them. We will have a quick Q&A session to answer all your, well, not all, sorry, but the majority of your questions. Also starting with Aiga, we probably discussed this in presentation, but we received still the question. Can you please comment on how far is the electrification procurement currently?
So we are in the second stage of approaching the second stage of the procurement. We are preparing the documents to issue the second stage. The plan is to have it launched by end of April, beginning of May. So this means then we will have to give sufficient time for the proposal preparation, and the plan is to conclude the contract by beginning of next year, January, February 2024. So that's the main milestone deadlines that we have at the moment.
Understandable, then busy end of the year for CCS team. Thank you. Mārtiņ, our viewers asked, is the consolidation of the supplies for construction materials, is this an Rail Baltica established practice, or it comes from the industry?
It's a very good question, actually. At some point, I believe we are not designing new bicycle here, and this approach is widely spread across the infrastructure managers of the railway infrastructure across the Europe. As we know, the Deutsche Bahn has a qualified list of the suppliers. SNCF does the same. Our neighbor Scandinavian railway infrastructure companies as well, they qualify, pre-qualify their suppliers, manufacturers, with the same aims and same goals to make sure the availability of the materials and to achieve better price conditions, better supply conditions, and many more aspects towards this. So basically, I would say this is market standard practice that we apply. Little bit, of course, tweaking and working towards a more sustainable approach. We have implemented into our supply procurements many environmental requirements and conditions for the evaluation. So we kind of encourage manufacturers look at the more environmental friendly logistics and production as well. So little tweaks, but I believe we are using the market and industry standards.
Great. There is also a question. Can you please elaborate on the decision of procuring ticketing, real-time information system, and other small items together with signaling tender, as it's not common practice anymore due to potential vendor lock-in?
Well, this is quite, I would say, technical question, not so much for me, but for my colleagues from CCS team. In general, the idea is to combine under one contractor full CCS, as there are a lot of systems included. Yes, indeed, but the strategy and idea is that we have one general contractor who is responsible for the implementation of the systems, and as was also indicated in the slide where all the systems were listed, the system integration also is one of the tasks what should be done by CCS contractor.
This hopefully answered also to our viewers. Martin, there was also continuing on the subject on the infrastructure maintenance facilities. Has the final locations have been chosen, or it's just an area of idea?
Yeah, this is again a very good question, right? So we have locations specified. We have initial designs and design processes taking place currently. So we are sure of more than half of the locations exactly, but there might be some changes throughout the design process, and not only because material bases, actually these are subject to specific construction requirements, which includes as well environmental impact assessment, and it depends as well on the area where could be the location. If it's urban area, then most probably we'll have to shift some places and move it a little bit. But if we look from the supply perspective, then these will not be such a huge changes that would impact on the price if we move it 1 kilometer one or another way. Because more important is the access to the storage area, transportation means which can access, and these are more important questions, I believe. But if under this question is more detail and substance required, then I would encourage to contact us through the procurement at railbaltica.org, and we'll try to find the answer.
Great. And then just maybe also continuing, one of the viewers wanted to know how all the consolidated materials such as sleepers, ballast, what is the plan for them to be transported? Is there some kind of logical aspect you can share on this?
I like our viewers today, the question, because this is something most probably I didn't touch upon in my presentation, but it's really important. There is no limitations to transportation means, but as a project that we consider as well as ourselves as a green project, therefore we would appreciate if the transportation means would be more environmental friendly, and by that most probably we're looking at the railway transportation and other means you can find that would reduce the carbon footprint, basically. But it's not mandatory, it's not limited to. Those ones participate in procurements, they see the evaluation methodology where it leads to, but if you would be engaged into the supply process as a subcontractor, and you may do and approach the companies which are participating, I would encourage you to propose the means more environmental friendly.
Great. Thank you for the answer. I got fairly technical question, but hopefully you can share some answer. There was a question: has Rail Baltica procured an expert service for the position and supply of the management and control of electromagnetic compatibility and exposure to electromagnetic fields from traction and non-traction HV power supply? I hopefully didn't butcher the words. So,
great technical question for me. I will have to level up to some engineer. But okay, I will not go in detail, but in general, so two parts what could be as a response to this question. First of all, we have an engineer in place. So we have concluded the contract with a consortium who is providing us the consultancy services in the preparatory phase for ENE, and also will be a FIDIC engineer during the construction phase. So therefore, partly this is in their scope. As well, it will be a part in higher detailization, also a scope for the contractor. So there are no separate services for that. This is something that is included both in an engineer already concluded agreement and the contract what we will have with the contractor for further.
Great, excellent, and thank you for answering this technical question. And then there was one more question from suppliers coming in on the subcontracting options, and the question was, is it possible in the midst to change the subcontractor partner?
Yeah, this is what I tried to explain in my last slide, maybe not so successful, but okay, I will try once again. Yeah, in the tender phase, you cannot change. So if you have proposed in your proposal list of the subcontractors, they stay there as it is. When you conclude the contractor, you're the winner of the procurement, then yes, you can change. There are several, how to say, preconditions. So if the subcontractor was used as an entity on which capabilities you were relying when you were submitting your proposal, there was, for example, some qualification criteria for which you used that particular subcontractor, so you comply with that qualification criteria. So in this specific case, if you are changing that subcontractor during the contract already, then you have to propose a subcontractor which fully complies with the same qualification criteria. So we will check and we will ask for the evidences that the change of the subcontractor doesn't change actually the quality or the qualification what was requested at the beginning.
Noted, and hopefully the viewer also got their answer on this possibility. And then the last question, I don't know if it's Aiga or Mārtiņš, but there was one specific question. Could you please provide more information for the grounds asking each of the consortium members to comply, for instance, with ISO or other requirements?
Well, it's a broad question. It's most probably related to one specific procurement. I can cover about the consolidated materials, of course. If their requirement, and there is always a reason for the requirement. It's not just being qualified as an ISO. When we establish these qualification requirements and we apply, we look at the consortium and ISO provides some certainty that the management procedures in the organization are well established and therefore these companies, when we speak about consortium, there is no ISO related to the consortium, which is just a partnership established for the reason of one procurement. Therefore, it's really important that these companies, these partners and their internal management systems, how they operate, can work together well and provide the result. This is most probably portion of the answer that we can provide why consortium members are everybody's supposed to have the ISOs related to most probably management systems. 9001 most probably the question refers to. So along those lines, I can tell. But if that's subject to one or another specific procurement exercise, then I would as well invite to ask the question, and we could provide answer. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. That was something to add, maybe, or.
What I can add, it's not only always ISO what we are asking. We are asking also if the company has equivalent standard or they have established in their company a management system which is compliant with the ISO standard. So it's not always ISO and nothing else. So we are trying to be flexible enough to get to the idea what Mārtiņš explained, that all members of the partnership has the same level of standard in their management system.
It's really good, Aiga, that you mentioned this, because yes, if you look at the qualification requirements and you see them challenging, first of all, you question. First of all, you ask contracting authority. Don't take them for granted. There are always alternatives and equivalents and ways, because in different areas, companies operates according to different principles. Maybe ISO is the one which connects these management processes and procedures. It's more reliable, understandable for us to pick up that the organization and companies is sound and good. But if you have any another procedures or internal own processes, not being qualified as ISO certificate, something. This is where you don't put yourself out of the competition. Ask the question. It could be the case that your management system actually meets the same requirements. And this is simple to prove. And many of our suppliers has already gone through these procedures and proven that, that it doesn't mean that the one brand of the management systems is compliant.
Excellent. Thank you. No more questions from the viewers, but thank you truly for both of the presentations and the answers shared. Hopefully also our viewers found it valuable at this point. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.